dog out, whatever you need to do. So we will catch you on the flip side of this. Thanks for being here. We'll see you in 5.
Support for NPR and the following message come from Delta, featuring free messaging for keeping you connected to your friends and family while you're in the air. Just connect to Wi-Fi and use your messaging app of choice. Delta, connecting your life in the air to your life on the ground.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Speer. The FBI is providing new details about what it calls potentially destructive devices sent to various high-profile Democrats. NPR's Barbara Sprunt has the story.
The FBI described 5 suspicious packages that were addressed to leading Democrats, including former President Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. All large manila envelopes with the same return address, Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz's office in Florida. The FBI says the packages are being sent to its laboratory in Quantico, Virginia, for further examination. The Bureau also says it's possible that more packages are still out there.
NPR's Barbara Sprunt. With the number of suspicious packages being sent to top Democrats and government officials rising, President Trump said today a major federal investigation is underway. Speaking at a White House conference on the opioid epidemic, the president also called the sending of the packages to former President Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and CNN a despicable act, and noted that no expense will be spared in finding whomever is to blame. Congressional investigators say immigration and health officials were blindsided by the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy for migrants crossing the southwest border. As NPR's Joel Rose explains, that's the finding of a report released today by the Nonpartisan Government Accountability Office.
The GAO report says officials at the Departments of Homeland Security and Health and Human Services did not plan for an increase in the number of children separated from their parents at the border. Officials at DHS and HHS told investigators they did not know in advance that Attorney General Jeff Sessions planned to begin prosecuting everyone crossing the border illegally until he announced the policy publicly. That zero-tolerance policy caused thousands of children to be separated from their parents. More than 2,500 children ended up in government-sponsored shelters before President Trump was forced to abandon the family separation policy under intense political pressure, and a federal judge ordered the families to be reunited. Joel Rose, NPR News, New York.
Officials in New Jersey are giving an update on the adenovirus outbreak at a medical facility there that has left 7 children dead and a number of others sickened. The outbreak affected pediatric patients at the Wenatchee Center for Nursing and Rehabilitation. The children had severely vulnerable immune systems. New Jersey Health Commissioner Dr. Sharif Elenal says this strain of virus is particularly known to affect group living arrangements.
It is not the first outbreak like this in New Jersey, and it's been known to cause more severe illness even in those with normal immune systems, let alone these children.
Health officials say all of the infections occurred in that facility's respiratory or ventilator unit. A blizzard of selling in the final part of the trading day sent stocks sharply lower today. The Dow dropped 608 points to 24,583, a decline of 2.4%. The Nasdaq was down 329 points today. You're listening to NPR. The head of Apple is endorsing tough new privacy laws for both Europe and the U.S., along with renewing a commitment to protect users' personal data. Apple's CEO Tim Cook also warned that in some cases people's personal data is, quote, being weaponized. Cook made his remarks at an international conference on data privacy today in Brussels. He also said that Apple fully supports a comprehensive federal privacy law for the U.S. Sales of new homes fell by more than 5% last month. That marks 4 straight monthly declines. NPR's Camila Dominowski reports.
The latest numbers out of the Commerce Department show the sale of new homes dropped noticeably in September compared to the month before. And last week, the National Association of Realtors reported that sales of existing homes have also been falling. Lawrence Yoon is the chief economist for the association.
The economic backdrop is quite good with job creation, the wealth rising in the country, yet home sales are not rising along with the economy.
Analysts say the slowdown is driven by rising interest rates, which make buying a house more expensive. That's on top of housing prices that had already risen past the point of affordability for many would-be buyers. Camila Dominowski, NPR News.
Love it or hate it has become a staple of Thanksgiving dinner for millions of Americans, the ubiquitous green bean casserole. Now, there's word the woman who created that mixture of green beans, cream of mushroom soup, and crunchy fried onions has died. Dorcas Riley died earlier this month in Haddonfield, New Jersey. She came up with the casserole while a kitchen supervisor at the Campbell's Soup Company in 1955. She was 92 years old. I'm Jack Spear, NPR News in Washington.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Hello there. Welcome back to Paranormal Experience Radio. I am your host, Kat Hobson. I am having the best time tonight because I am joined by Dr. Rita Louise, who is an author. She also is a radio host in her own right. She hosts Just Energy Radio. She's also the founder of the Institute of Applied Energetics, and I'd like to learn more about that as well as the writings. But there is one title that I'm interested in would like to ask about, if you don't mind, Rita.
No, go ahead.
Okay. The title, Lies and Deception, The Reptilian Agenda.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't started that one yet. And the title fascinates me because I have a friend who has had very good experiences with reptilians. But she's the only person I've ever spoken to who admits to having had good experiences with reptilians. So, and speaks of them as loving and gentle and all the things that you've never heard applied to them. So I was just curious, what did you learn as you were writing that particular book?
Well, it's not a book. It's just an article.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just an article. And I guess the point of the article, okay, so I've heard the same thing. I mean, I don't know anyone personally, or can I say that as a true statement? I probably know someone personally that has had good experiences with reptilians, but they get a lot of bad slack. But my point in writing that article is that when you look at the mythic record, so there's stories that come out of contemporary ufology. Involving reptilians, abduction scenarios, a number of different things. And when you start looking at stories that come from the mythic record and comparing it to information from the contemporary UFO community, you find parallels, leading you to believe that they've never left. That there is still this extraterrestrial, if you want to call it extraterrestrials, because according to the mythic record, the half man, half snake, half man, half fish characters that are usually tied to a concept of being a fertility god lived on the earth first, and so they complain that, that they were here first, and the mythic record supports that notion that they were here on the earth and that they were fought, and lost a war against this group of sky gods who took control of the planet. And so, so that's, and you hear that same narrative coming out of contemporary ufology that, the reptilians were here first. This is their planet. They were here first. And so I decided to kind of take information that came out of contemporary ufology and kind of compare and contrast what you find in the mythic record, and then kind of look at, what do they want and why are they here? Which there really is not a whole lot of information, both in the mythic record as well as contemporary wise. We don't really know, whether we're talking about reptilians or Nordics or Syrians or Palladians, any of those guys. We really don't know what their motives are. I mean, they could tell us something, but do you really want to trust them? Really?
Not off the bat, first time I meet them.
Many, many years ago, actually, it was Barbara Hand-Clow wrote a book, The Palladian Agenda. And then there was another book, and that book talked about us moving into the Galactic Center, and the Palladians, and it was a very uplifting, heartwarming, wonderful book. And around the same time, there was another book called We Are Becoming Galactic Humans by...
Yes, I've read that.
So I don't remember the author. Well, did you make it through the whole book?
No.
I made it maybe halfway, maybe. I started having bad dreams. Mm-hmm. And I started having dreams of, ships coming down and like weird stuff. And I had to stop reading it because it scared the crap out of me. And I'm going to share this story because it was really funny. So, this was a while after reading that book, like maybe a year later, and I'm getting ready to go to a show, like, a trade show thing, and I'm doing my hair, and the power cuts out. Just cut out. And I freaked out. I'm like, oh my God, they're here. It's the 3 days, and I freaked out. I wasn't running up and down the street or anything, but I just stopped and was like, oh my God, but then I realized that the radio was still playing.
Right. So
I'm like, oh, okay.
With your,
but so I came back after that, oh my God. And, yeah. And so I ended up writing this article about that concept because one book really addressed everything from a fear-based perspective, and it just scared the crap out of you.
Yes.
And the other book was loving and kind, but, we can be manipulated through love and kindness and thinking that they're working for our highest good. And we don't know. So we hear stuff coming from people that are experiencers, but do we really know?
Well, we don't, because in my experience, all the people who have ever told me that they were hybrid were all Palladians. Okay? So, not that I don't think that's the statistically supported possibility that everyone is Palladian. But I found it interesting because that's who I think all the people that would like to be hybrid consider the good guys. So obviously they must be a good guy too.
Except they're making hybrid babies in the covert operation.
Exactly.
That's good.
But, we never talk about that part of it, right?
But see, that would be the question that I would be asking.
It is my question. And also, how do you know that you're Palladian? I'm drawn to the Pleiades, but only because of the myth behind it, and I can see it. And it's always right there off Orion's tip. So I love that. I am a star watcher, and that's my color Kool-Aid. But without a doubt, every person who has said they're hybrid says that that's the race that they are, the species they are, whatever terminology you prefer. And I just find that interesting.
And you don't really know what to do with it. Personally, I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with it either. And I care very much for some of these people, and I don't want to be seeming like I'm belittling their opinion or their self-definition. But it just seems odd to me that there's not a single person who's a hybrid reptilian. There's not a single person who is from anywhere else. So, just
but that goes. That just goes with the whole there's a group of reptilians that live in underground bases and they're controlling the whole world. Which
and they chase people before they eat them because the adrenaline makes them tasty. I've heard that
Well, that's
too.
because they're like feeding off of our energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, and so it's kind of like, okay, so what do you do with that? But then there's a part of me, because I feel like the mythic record on some level supports some of that conjecture.
Right.
But
Well,
then
it
there's
does,
yet that